Period pain is normalized to the point where it becomes overlooked and unaddressed, leading millions of women to accept their period pain as something they have to endure. Intense period pain is not normal, and you do not have to endure and suffer. There are many ways to address and heal this pain. Let's dive into it. What causes period pain? To answer this question, we need to distinguish the type of period pain or dysmenorrhea we are experiencing. There are two types. There's primary dysmenorrhea, which is painful period cramps that begin shortly before or at the start of your period. This type of period pain is caused by the release of prostaglandins in your uterus. As your uterine lining starts to break down at the end of your cycle, it releases prostaglandins. They stimulate your uterine muscles to contract to help to shed the lining. Prostaglandins are a normal part of the process, but too many prostaglandins can cause pain. Primary dysmenorrhea is a direct result of your period, meaning that your period itself, the muscle contractions and levels of prostaglandins, are causing the pain, not an underlying condition. The treatment for this type of pain is to reduce prostaglandins, which we'll get into the specifics of very soon. The other type of period pain is secondary dysmenorrhea, which is severe period pain that comes with throbbing, burning, searing, or stabbing pain that lasts for many days and can even occur between periods. It's not relieved by ibuprofen and can be so bad you vomit. This severe pain is caused by an underlying medical condition such as endometriosis or adenomyosis. It can get worse as you get older. Note too that the reproductive system related conditions associated with secondary dysmenorrhea tend to be difficult to diagnose, and doctors can be quick to be dismissive of this pain. The holistic treatments used to treat primary dysmenorrhea can also be used to treat secondary dysmenorrhea, but targeted treatments will be needed for the specific underlying condition you have, and it's more likely that you will need a combination of both natural and conventional treatments. Let's get into the treatments for getting rid of period pain, utilizing a holistic perspective. Holistic healing modalities and practices can hugely reduce period pain, and in holistic healing, 3 key factors are considered: diet, lifestyle, and environment. Let's look at each of these factors and how they can either contribute to pain or contribute to easing of that pain. Okay, so diet. A diet that contributes to menstrual pain could look like a daily diet made up of highly processed foods, refined oils, refined carbohydrates, low-quality dairy and meats, high sugar foods. All of these foods put the body in an inflamed state. They throw off blood sugar and insulin levels and put a stress load on the body, all of which contributes to period pain. A diet that eases menstrual pain could look like a daily diet made up of foods that are anti-inflammatory, like healthy fats, proteins, vegetables, fruits, and complex carbohydrates. Think fish and high-quality meats and grass-fed butter and free-range eggs, all types of vegetables and fruits, nuts, seeds, sprouted breads, and whole grains. A healthy diet is a diet that is supportive to both your body and your mind. It's not about perfection or restriction. It's about getting curious about the foods you're eating and finding ways to incorporate nutritious and supportive foods into your meals in enjoyable ways. Okay, now lifestyle. A lifestyle that contributes to menstrual pain could look like haphazard sleeping habits, lack of natural sunlight, lack of movement and exercise, unsupportive jobs or school or other commitments that are draining rather than fulfilling or motivating, and also inconsistency. All of these things put a stress load on the body and mind. A lifestyle that eases menstrual pain could look like regulated and consistent sleeping habits, so going to bed and waking up at a fairly consistent time. getting sunlight at different times of day, which helps regulate our circadian rhythm, having some level of focus and commitments in life that are supportive to you, fulfilling and motivating and consistent, daily movements and exercise that feels right for your body. All of these things relieve stress and lower inflammation, putting the body in a state with more ease. Remember, it's what you do and eat and how you generally live throughout the entirety of your cycle that matters. The impact is cumulative. And while the effects of diet and lifestyle are cumulative, the role of our final factor, environment, really shows its influence most prominently when we have our period. Now, when I'm talking about environment, I'm talking about the physical spaces that you are in through the majority of your day-to-day life. So that could be home, work, school, etc. And you might not think too much about your day-to-day environments through the majority of your menstrual cycle, but when you have your period, when you are actively in pain or in discomfort, your environment becomes very crucial to your experience of that pain and discomfort. So for you, consider what your period looks like and feels like to you when you have to show up to work or school or whatever environments your commitments put you in. And then consider what your sort of ideal would be. What environment is that ideal set in? And how do you imagine how that might change the experience of your period? Here's a personal story of how environment plays a huge role in period pain. So, for the past several years, I was a housekeeper. I cleaned beach rental houses, and I distinctly remember the days when I had to go to work while on my period. It was like an instant increase in my pain and discomfort, like somebody cranked the dial up on my cramps. I remember one particular day driving to work with my sister, and my cramps getting progressively worse, likely from the impending anticipatory stress of a workday. I got through the day, but ended it feeling unwell. When my body was crying out for rest and replenishment, I was exerting myself and draining myself, and with that, creating more pain and discomfort in my body and mind. But I've also had many periods where I haven't had to work, and the experience is completely different. So in my old house, there was a pink room downstairs, separate from the rest of the house. It was my sister's bedroom most of the time, but she wasn't always living at home. And the times when I had that room all to myself while on my period gave me a completely new experience of my period. It just sort of naturally became a period retreat space for me. It wasn't a fancy space, but it was separate from my family. It had its own bathroom, its own air conditioning, a comfy place to lay down. It felt comforting, and I'd spend lots of time in there during my period, especially the first couple days. I'd eat in there and nap and watch shows and read. I'd close the blinds and turn on the air and lay under a comforter with a heating pad. Even if I was experiencing painful cramps in that space, the environment was a comforting place to experience that pain in, so it didn't add to the pain, it actually put some part of me at ease. If you are in environments that promote stress, you might not be as affected by that stress when you don't have your period, but when you have your period, those environments like work or school can amplify your period pain. Basically, if you are in a stress-inducing environment on your period, you will very likely notice an increase in your period pain. Okay, so now we've covered the 3 core holistic principles of diet, lifestyle, and environment. When you have your period, consider the places, foods, drinks, movement, actions, rest that would promote release and replenishment, and consider where you could exert and drain yourself less. Now, let's get into some specific treatments for you to consider. Okay, so for years I've had very painful cramps on the first day of my period, and I would always have to take ibuprofen for it, but for my past 5 menstrual cycles, I have not had to take any ibuprofen. And these are the treatments I've been doing. Number 1, within this time that my period pain has diminished, I've made dietary adjustments to include more healthy fats in my diet. Foods like grass-fed butter, free-range eggs, wild-caught canned tuna, avocados, nuts, and seeds. All of these foods contain omega-3 fatty acids, which have been found to reduce period pain, likely because of its anti-inflammatory effects. I'll note too that I've also been eating sweet potatoes regularly throughout this time, which are anti-inflammatory. Diet changes can come with an all or nothing restrictive mindset, but I really don't believe that that's necessary or helpful in the long run. It's not about achieving a diet of perceived perfection, it's about understanding which foods are most supportive to your body and getting more and more in the habit of eating more of those foods. Think of it more as expanding your palate than restricting it. Okay, number 2, I've been taking a B complex. B complex assists with energy metabolism, cellular function, nervous system support, red blood cell formation, skin and hair health, immune function, and mood regulation. Vitamin B1, which is one of the vitamins in a B complex, has been found to regulate uterine muscular contractions. Number 3, raspberry leaf tea. Within the past several cycles that I haven't had to take any ibuprofen, I've also started drinking raspberry leaf tea within 3 days or so leading up to my period and then during my period. Raspberry leaf tea is high in tannins, which are naturally occurring polyphenolic compounds found in tea leaves, which contribute to it being an herbal astringent, which helps to tone and tighten tissue. It also contains the alkaloid fragrine that relaxes the uterus and reduces pain and discomfort of menstrual cramps. Number 4, Epsom salt baths. I've noticed that if I take an Epsom salt bath in the days leading up to my period, by the time I actually get my period pain is reduced. Epsom salt is high in magnesium, which helps relax the muscles and the body overall. And finally, number 5, the first 2 days of my period are retreat days if at all possible. Like I've said, what you do when you have your period affects how it is you will experience your period. As in, you can do things within your day that will add to your pain and discomfort, or you can do things that will ease your pain and discomfort. I really find it so important for me to take the first 2 days of my period as rest and replenishment days, and I find that this unto itself brings me great relief. These are all the things that seem to be working for me right now. I also wanted to provide some other treatments for you to consider from naturopathic Dr. Laura Bryden, who is the author of the Period Repair Manual, which is a resource I definitely recommend checking out. She recommends to avoid cow's dairy. She says that the problem with dairy is a protein called A1 casein, and for some people, A1 casein is inflammatory because it stimulates the immune system to generate inflammatory cytokines. But A1 casein does not generate inflammation in everyone. She says that the first clue to knowing if you have casein sensitivity is if you suffered recurrent tonsillitis or ear infections when you were a kid. As an adult, you may have symptoms such as hay fever, sinus infections, chest infections, eczema, and asthma. And that same immune disruption might manifest now in period symptoms such as acne, period pain, PMS, and heavy periods. It can also contribute to histamine intolerance, which is a condition of having too much of the inflammatory compound histamine. She also recommends taking magnesium. It reduces prostaglandins and relaxes the uterus. You can take magnesium throughout the month to prevent the formation of too many prostaglandins. And you can also take more magnesium during your period to relieve acute pain. She recommends 300 milligrams of magnesium glycinate per day. And I'll personally say that if you have trouble digesting magnesium supplements, like I do, try Epsom salt baths. They are a great way to absorb magnesium. You're just absorbing it through your skin instead of through your digestion. Next is zinc, which prevents period pain. It inhibits prostaglandins and inflammation. She recommends taking 30 milligrams per day directly after a large meal. Her next recommendation is turmeric, which reduces prostaglandins and is anti-inflammatory. You can just find this in your spice aisle at the grocery store, and if you add black pepper to it, it makes that turmeric more bioavailable to your cells. Just a little fun fact there. And she also recommends fish oil, which contains omega-3 fatty acids that reduce prostaglandins and inflammation. These are all things for you to consider. Take stock of your personal story, your current diet, lifestyle, environment, and the type of period pain or dysmenorrhea you think you are experiencing. All of the treatments we've discussed today can bring huge improvement to those of you dealing with primary dysmenorrhea. But remember, if you're dealing with secondary dysmenorrhea, which is period pain caused by an underlying condition, then more targeted treatments may be needed. Again, I highly recommend the Period Repair Manual as a great resource to finding treatments for your specific concerns. I hope this video provided you with some insight and considerations for how you might want to treat your period pain. Like this video so that more people who are looking for relief from their period pain can actually find this video. If you're new here, I'm Greta, and I'm really passionate about periods and the menstrual cycle and the healing that can come from them and the ways in which we can heal our experience of our periods and our menstrual cycles overall. Subscribe and stick around. I would truly love to have you. And from the growing light in me into the growing light in you, I wish you relief and ease from your pain, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.